And now we've come to the part where we're going to paint this guy. I decided in the last one I was going to do kind of my middle school football team colors, and those were orange and white. We're going to start with some black. We're going to make him a black bear because I don't want him to really monkey around with a lot of different colors and shades. And so what we've got to color black are his hand, paw, face, arm, and head. So I use this cheap paint, and it's not cheap, it's just inexpensive. Deco Art Americana. You can buy it down at Walmart has it, Michael's has it. Lots of art stores have it. So we've got white, pure warm white, bright orange, raw umber, and soft black. So I'm going to start off with the black because that's where I want to begin, and I'm just going to start to paint. Now one of the things I also do is I water it down pretty heavily. So this is watered down about a 1-to-1 ratio. For every drop of color, there's water. There's a drop of water. And in fact, most of the time, I water it down even more. Sometimes it's 8 to 10 to 1. And it's funny because everybody has their own way of doing things. I know people that put stain down, people that put sealer down before they start painting, people that put that in later. The more you do this, the more you find ways that works for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do in terms of you got to do it this way. There are a lot of different ways of doing this. I realize I'm off the camera. I apologize. All I'm doing is getting this paint and just watering. It's watered down, and I want to put it wherever the fur of this bear is going to show. So one of those is his paw. I like using round brushes because I can chisel that or move it around or do whatever I need to do to get it to a point or to a flat surface, a flat edge, and then I can be very precise in how I paint that way. Painting is an individual choice, how you do that. I'm not here to tell you how to do it, but the bottom line is you got to figure it out yourself. I'll show you 1 or 2 or 3 different ways of doing things as I go through my videos. Follow that if you want, ask questions if you want, and I'm always open to answering questions. But just gonna be how you decide to do it is entirely up to you, because nobody that I know of does it exactly the same. When I first started, we used to dunk it in boiled linseed oil. Then we'd let that dry and we'd paint over it, knowing full well that water and oil don't mix. So it comes down to what are you going to do for your style. That's entirely up to you. Usually I'll switch from a little brush like this one to a bigger one as I get into a bigger space. In other words, carving a bigger part of it. So this is the head. I could certainly use a flatter brush or a bigger brush, load that brush up with a lot of paint, because the feeling is if you got a tool in your hand, do everything you can in terms of efficient use of time. Use that tool, hammer, screwdriver, whatever, as long as you can, because it saves you time from switching back and forth the tools. I mean, the idea is you already got that tool in your hand, why not go ahead and paint what needs to be painted that color or with that brush while you got it in your hand. So I want to try to do that. I don't always do that, but sometimes I do. And again, this should be fun. And as you do it, you should be enjoying what you're doing. I know a lot of people say, I hate the painting process. Other people are like, I hate the sealing process or whatever. Bottom line is we're all going to have parts that we don't really enjoy that much. But we've got to find a way to enjoy it. One of the things I always used to tell my students when I taught school. And this was hard for a lot of them to do because some of them didn't come from a very good background. I always challenge them to find the joy wherever they were at, whatever they were doing. Find the joy, whether it's a sunset or a sunrise or a baby's laugh or a nice piece of painting or a beautiful tree. Look for the joy in whatever you're doing, because if all you look for is the ugly part of life, wow, that's going to be a difficult thing to make it through every day without sinking into that ugly part. And we've certainly all done that at times, because life gets a hold of you and sometimes it jerks you around like a rag doll. It's the way life is. Things happen. You don't have control over everything that happens to you. So it's a matter of being able to deal with what happens to you in the best way you can that gives you the best outcome. So maybe you want to get where you're going, and karma, nature, force of nature, whatever doesn't let you. Well, don't roll up in the corner and whine and cry. Pull your britches up, put your boots on, go to work to fix it. I know that's hard to say, and at times in my life I couldn't do that because I didn't have the skills to do so. But I do have a lot of skills, more now than I used to, and I like to try to use them to get myself out of a jam. Sometimes I got myself into a jam and I didn't mean to, and sometimes that's just the way nature did. But I've always tried to look for the joy. My wife sometimes has to pull me back. She says I'm eternally optimistic, and sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not sure what I am. I'm optimistic about being a pessimist, or I'm pessimistic about being an optimist. So whatever that means, when you figure it out, let me know, because I'm still trying to figure it out. Anyway, bottom line I'm trying to say is, do your carving the way you want to. It is your carving. It is your thing that you're creating. And you're not trying to create a Rembrandt. You're not trying to recreate something that somebody else has already done. You're trying to do your best at what you're doing. And in this case, right now, it's about painting a bear. So I'm slapping on this paint. I may come back in spots with another coat of it, but right now, I don't need to. It's looking pretty good. I got paint in just about every spot except for what my wife calls the holidays, or the highlights. I miss them occasionally. I got to go back and do them. Not a big deal. Go back and cover over. Depending on what part of the carving you're at, the paint absorbs and acts differently. Up here at the top, the grain is running up and down. And because it's running up and down, when you carve, you open up the fibers up here, the grain, and it has a tendency to soak in more paint, whereas on the side it sometimes doesn't even want to soak in, because the grain is running this way. It won't get in between the grain, the way the grain's on the tree. Okay, I've got a little hair dryer over here. I'm going to hit that for a few seconds to dry this out so I can carve around it. I want to get this done. So hold on just a second. Turn the sound down for about 10 seconds, 15 maybe. Go. Done. This time. I want to put orange on the front part of the shoe. I want to put orange on the front part of the shoe. I want to put black on the bottom sole, and then I want to put orange back here on the heel cap, or whatever that's called. I'm going to have some, you know what, I don't know. Let me go ahead and paint something else while I think about what I want to do, because I don't know that I want to do that. Where'd my hair, that brush there? Okay. I'm going to dip into the white, because I'm going to go white around the edges of his jersey. So right here. Sorry, I rearranged a few things and now I'm off from where I was when I was carving, and I keep forgetting to stay in the circle. Apologize. Said I was going to stay in the lane and stay in. I have a feeling I'm always going to be slightly off the camera, slightly askew. Let me scoot up as far as I can, and that will put my arms at a different angle, and I can get right to it. So, wide here. I have a bag of painting sticks over here where you screw your carving onto the stick, and then you can hold the stick and not hold the carving. I always get started on it, and I find it's uncomfortable because I want to turn it a certain way, and I don't get it turned that way, and all of a sudden it kind of rotates in my hand the way it wants to. I need to learn how to do those a little bit better, a little more often, so that way I can keep it straight. A lot of times as you move your hand around, what you're doing is you're touching a wet part. You don't really want to, but I'm sure I've touched this bottom because I got it on my finger. I'll just be a little more careful. Painting the sleeve here. I don't try to get perfect when I'm demonstrating painting. I try to show you how I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm usually pressed for time. I don't want it to be a 2-hour video on painting something. That's about like sitting out in the field and watching corn grow. But anyway, I'll show you what I'm doing, and then I'll carry on with it, and then we'll move on and move to the next thing. I want to carve on that number 2. I want a smaller brush for that. I'll grab a little bitty one like this, just so I don't slap paint everywhere. Part of being an artist is knowing which tool to use and where. So I'm going to just make sure the 7 is covered in white. I'm still giving thought to what I want the shoe to look like. I did this one, same kind of thing. Made it look like a tennis shoe. Well, I don't have that. I'm making it look like a high heel, not a high heel, a high topper, where I didn't cut another layer around here for the top of the shoe. I'm just going to leave all that there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do white right down the middle of that tongue of the shoe. So I'm changing as we talk here, because I'm just playing around with it. But at the top of that tongue, I'm just dabbling white, and it's hard to see down in there, especially when you're demonstrating. But I'm going to do the best I can, and then if I slop paint over on something else, I'll have to paint over it with that darker color. White is one of those colors that's easy to see through but hard to cover up sometimes. So I know there's a whole school of art about opaque and transparent, and I just get a little confused with it. So I just kind of go with what I'm feeling. I want to do white there. I'm going to do white on the cap of the heel and the toe cap. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it sounds right to me, so that's the word I'm going to use. I may be wrong as I can get, but I'm going to use that word because it makes sense to me. Alrighty then, the toe, the front of it. You can see why some people don't like painting. Some people find it tedious. I think, personally, for me, it brings out the character of whatever I'm carving. Because I can carve eyes, nose, fingers, whatever, and those things don't really feel real until you start adding some dimension to them. And so there's a school of thought that says you shouldn't paint your carvings, you should just dip them in stain or whatever. And I look at that thinking, well, if I do that, it won't be finished. It won't feel finished. And so I like putting paint on. Now, having said that, I used to paint a lot. One of these days I'll show you some of the paintings I have on my wall, because I've done some of them. So I come to carving with already a little bit of knowledge about how to paint. Not an expert by any means, but at least how to paint. And so I don't dread it like other folks do. Some people just don't like it at all. All right, hang on. I'll go around and make sure I don't have any holidays, my wife calls them. So there's one right there. One right there. Hit it with the hairdryer here for about 15 seconds. I'll count down to 15 and then I'll turn it off. So if you want to turn your sound off. Okay, I want to put black on the bottom, so I'm going to get a thin, where's that real thin one I just had? That's that real thin one right there. And I'm just going to do black. Make sure you mix up these wells all the time, because it has a tendency, paint has a tendency to settle in. And what you'll end up getting is you'll just dip it in there, and if your brush touches the bottom, then if it's not been shaken up a little bit, mixed up, then you might end up with a whole thing of just pure pigment, which can get really frustrating, because now you got to go back over that pure pigment and make it look like it's not so dark. So it can get on your nerves. Yep. Dipped into the white when I didn't need to. Happens. Good thing is I don't drink coffee, so I never use my coffee as rinse water or mix water. I know it's a real problem for some people, because they'll do that. They'll forget which one is the coffee and which one is the water or whatever, and then they end up drinking paint. Kind of like what we did when we were kids. We put anything into our mouth that we thought was edible. Okay. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of water to my paint because it's getting low. And what I want to do is use that paint to paint over the bottom of the shoes. That'll help me as I go around. I'll get some of the holidays, like right here. There's a little holiday right there where I didn't dab any paint. So it'll allow me a chance to come over here and fix these at the same time, rather than having to make another pass around those things. I can just put the paint here where I want to put it. Alright. I'm still debating on the shoes. I guess I'm gonna do the orange on the rest of the shoe. So let's just go ahead and do that and get it over with. This is a real bright kind of tangerine orange. which is a typical color for Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, and local schools. They'll adopt a theme or a color very similar to that, just in solidarity, or just because that's the color they wanted way back when that school was first formed. I've always liked that color, but I know there's people who say orange is not in my color wheel. I get it. I get it. I really do. I also have to think about the color I'm going to put down here on the base of the body. Am I going to just go dark and call it good, or what we're going to do? So, you know, again, you got a lot of decisions to make on color, and you got to think about that, because otherwise it takes hours to paint for some things. And I got a drip. See that drip right there? That black one all the way up there? We might be able to cover some of it up with this tangerine color, and we probably won't. I think the tangerine is watered down too much, where it won't cover up the black. So we might have to go to pure paint instead of watered down paint like we got in the well right now. We'll have to go to some really thick right out of the bottle paint. I gotta go back over here to find it, doesn't it? Yeah, that's not gonna cover up. Alright, there it is right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip straight out of the lid there, and that'll give me a chance to get it real thick. And then when I paint over it, hides that black. Just a little trick that you learn. And we're going to do the same thing with the white that got splashed on there. Although I think this is really watered down. Okay, yep, there we go. So we fixed that. And then we got a couple little spots like right here. We fix that again with some orange. Oh, better go over the color itself. Just the little things you got to learn about how to fix what you're doing. I tell my customers it takes me a little bit longer to do something than you might think, simply because I want to get it right for you. So I don't want to give you some kind of half completed project. I want you to enjoy what you're getting. Get your money's worth. Okay, going to hit that hairdryer again for a few seconds. Hang on. Tell I painted over that area. It's still pretty ugly because I didn't get it all taken care of. So we're going to put some more orange in there just to cover it up. Just cover it up better. Straight orange right out of the tube. And then we're going to put a little white here. In fact, I'm going to do like I just did and take it out of the lid, because it's thicker that way. So we're painting right here. Get a little bit of white on the brush just to hide that. And we have a lot over here. And voila! Oh, we got it around here. More voila! Helps to learn a thing or two from somebody else. I saw somebody used to do that, or I've done that myself. I don't remember exactly what, but you just use the paint for what it can do. You can't get it to do something it ain't supposed to do. And so we're good there. Okay. Now we got all this orange over here. We're going to have to hit the hairdryer a few seconds just to dry that out, and then we got to hit that body with the orange. too thin down here. That black is showing through, so we're going to dip a little bit back in there, cover it up. And then because it's real thick there, I'm going to feather it out a little bit so it doesn't look like I got a dollop of really ugly paint there. I got it covered up. Okay. Everything else looks like it's okay. A couple of tiny little spots there. Alright, here we go. This is going to be hard to do because I'm going to have to turn this thing around so many times I may get myself into some orange when I don't need to, so we'll have a little bit of fun. See that right there? We need a little bit of orange to cover that up. A little bit more thick orange. Cover that up as we go. And we'll come back and hit one more. Maybe more than one more little like lick at that orange to get it to work. This almost feels like a transparent color, but I've watered it down a bit, so I'm thinking it'll work, but except for little areas like that where we got a mistake sticking out, which we have to paint over to take care of it. So no big deal. Not a big deal. Again, I don't want to spend all day painting this. You know where you're going with that, what color you're getting into. And so I'm not going to show you anything real fancy here, anything that you couldn't learn from any video I've done before or anything else that we've been part of. Get some of that orange out of the corner so we can cover it up. I have to get a lot of it, cover that up like that. Okay. And then we're going to turn it. Well, I'm having a hard time hanging on to that doggone thing today. But you know where I'm going. I'm just splashing paint on it, trying to make it work for what we're trying to do, which is just paint this guy. Makes you wonder why all of our painting professionals, landscape, portraits, whatever, primarily work in silence or work in their own space by themselves. Because it's a contemplative process of, okay, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do there? How am I going to get there? And that's just the way it is. You got to figure that out, and a lot of extraneous noise. I know I don't really enjoy it, although sometimes I'll have football game or something going on, a movie I've seen 1,000 times, just to keep me from getting too deep in my head. So I ignore the voices in my head. I don't necessarily want to hear what they have to say. So, just saying. But I like peace and quiet when I'm working too. Yeah, I got to take this small brush, this smaller brush, get it in that orange and get right there into the arm. I think I'm using the wrong words. I say this bear's hand when it's really a paw. This bear's toes or whatever, and when really I'm talking about painting their arm, and it's really some leg, because they walk primarily on 4 legs. And so if I'm going to use the right biology terminology, the arm is a leg just like the leg is. And so I gotta do it right. Don't nobody sue me over using the wrong word. Hopefully. Getting down in that backspace right there where that arm is. Leg, not arm. Did it again, didn't I? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this project as we near the end of it. I use my own colors, use your own colors, figure out what you want. Maybe it's you're doing it for one of your grandkids or one of your own kids, and you want to give them the colors of their team. But use whatever colors you want. Be creative in coming up with how you're going to paint your subjects. I do a lot of carvings like cowboys and things, and sometimes I go, well, I've done gray hats, 10 of the last 11 cowboys. I need to do something else instead of the same thing. So, okay. Let's hit the hairdryer. Maybe one more time, but let's hit the hairdryer and dry off that jersey. Didn't paint. I did paint that white. So there he is, other than the eyes. I've done eyes in a lot of different ways. If this is the first time you're watching me do eyes, I've done where they're white and then a black eyeball. A little smaller. About the same size. And completely black with a little dot there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go behind it and I'm going to paint a little bit of sienna, and then I'm going to come back over that with a dark brown and then give it a white highlight. So when I say sienna, I'm looking at something like raw sienna. Where's it at? There we go. Nope. Yep, that's it. So a little bit of this raw sienna. That's about the right color, because it's just going to be the color of the overall eye. And then we're going to go over top of that and make a round pupil. Come on, get off of there. That thing was coated in orange. Alright, here we go. Oh, I got the body down here to do too as well. So we're going to carve. Nope, let's get a smaller brush. Alright. Brown. That might be a little light. We might have to darken it back up. Yep, we do. Okay. So I'm going to do a little trick here. Get the paint out of the way. Put a little bit there. And a little bit of the raw umber, not raw sienna. I think we need to do that to get a little bit darker. I'm getting down there deep enough to get a solid color, but I think this would still work. Let's put it on there and see. Tones it down a little bit. That's what I wanted it to do. I didn't want it to be bright brown orange. Hairdryer. And if you don't like the colors I'm using, feel free to choose whatever you want. There's no rhyme or reason to doing caricature and cartoon eyes. But I did that dark brown. We're gonna go back over it with a light black, with a light coating of black. So I'm just gonna dip it in there, and I want to cover most of that eye. So you see it right there. Oh, too watery. Put that over here, spread it out, dry that watery color out, and then we'll put that black in there. See how we're getting that black in there? Well, you can't see that very well, can you? Let's try this other eye. So I'm going to put a black iris / pupil in there. Okay, hair dryer one time. Alright, that's what we got to deal with. This one over here is real shiny for some reason, so I'm going to go back over it with black a little bit more. Hair dryer. Alright, now what I want is to use a stylus. If you don't have a stylus, these little dots on the end of them, get you some. They're very useful for making real small dots. Okay, we're going to dip it right in the lid. I'm going to give it a little touch there, a little bit bigger than that. And another one. If you put this one over here on the outside, put this one over here on the outside as well. Okay, the only thing I didn't do today, and I'll let you do that on your own, is right here at the bottom, between the feet and between the bottom of the jersey. There's that under belly part. I would normally paint that black. I'll let you do that on your own. And I think we're done with this. What I would do to seal it up, I would get it 1 or 2 or 3 coats of polyurethane satin. Satin doesn't have a shine to it. I wouldn't make it glossy. I'm not a big fan of glossy, of my paintings being glossy, to put it that way. People do whatever they want to. But I want to give it that 2 or 3 coats. If you want to sand it between coats, that's okay. I don't ever do that. I think it looks okay. Base, whatever base you want to put on it. And I have not painted the finger, but the goal was to put it on there, or the goal was to make it orange and write on there go or team or number 1 or whatever you want to do. Whatever suits your fancy on doing that. So anyway, you got a quick and down and dirty of how I paint. I do a different painting technique on other things, but for these guys this works perfectly. Go over it with some dry brush if you want to bring out the highlights. I use buttermilk. Sometimes I'll use desert sand or khaki tan. Just depends on what it is. But what I'll do is I'll get it. I'll show you real quick how I do it, and then you can go do it on your own. I take a brush like this. It's very fluffy, like a makeup brush, and I want to shake this buttermilk up. Bob Ross beat the devil out of it. Anyway, I want to dip in that lid, so just like that, so that you got paint all through the brush. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it into the brush by I'm going to mash it in there. I'm going to mash it around a little bit because I want it all the way through there, and I don't want it really, really hard. So then when I come over here, I'll show you on the back of his head. When I come over here, I'm going to lightly drag it across the facets. I don't want a lot of paint to end up on my carving, but I do want it to look like there's some texture to it. I don't want you to pick up my carving and think it's just a real flat plastic resin whatever. That's what I would do. on all the painted surfaces. Not white, because that'd just be wasted time. But you get an idea of where I'm going. I'm adding facets to it with a light hand. I don't want them heavy. If they get heavy, you're just going to be chasing, getting them off of there, and then trying to figure out how you're going to put something back on. You got me? You feel me? There you go. I'll call this one done, and we'll move on to the next project, and I'll have that up here right directly, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for coming along. God bless all of y'all. It's New Year's Day 2025. I hope you have a great New Year's, and that this year is a whole lot better than the years in the past that weren't. And I hope you have a great time with your family, friends, colleagues, co-workers, neighbors, and let's spread the joy. Let's find the joy and let's spread it. Y'all take care. We'll see you in the next video.